them because they just, don't have better options, and they're just trying to be
You've
nice.
done your research. Yeah. No, I think...
but you kind of blow through all of those.
I think it was laziness. I think that's probably one of the... If I were to say the main reason people stay in relationships, I think it's laziness. Because I think there's a decent amount of them that are unhappy or that would be happy with somebody else, but they're kind of... they're afraid of the unknown, or they're comfortable, or whatever. They just don't want to go out and, find somebody better or find somebody more compatible. And so they just get, stuck in the routine. I think that's what happens to a lot of people in their lives. They just get stuck in a routine, and then they wake up one day and they're 40 and they're doing the same fucking thing every day. And they look at my Instagram and say, oh shit, here's a guy that's doing something different all the time. He's living outside the box. He's experiencing something new. He's having sex with different girls. He's traveling different places. Who knows what he's going to do next? So I think that's part of the appeal, is that it's unorthodox, it's unknown, unpredictable.
There's a line in the movie Fight Club where Tyler Durden says to the other guy, he says, I'm free in all the ways that you are not. Just because he decides to make a decision not to be attached to all of these constraints.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of what you represent for a lot of people. They just look at you and say, oh, Dan just chose. I'm not going to be limited by these ideas of language and monogamy and political correctness, and I'm just going to do my thing.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think when you let go of all the constraints of society, I think you're able to start kind of finding out your own path and what you like. And I think, I don't know, I just think everybody lives in this box. They just live within these constraints of what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to go to college. They're supposed to do this. They're supposed to do that. And they just end up doing that same shit. And I never wanted to do that same shit, so I just didn't. I got thrown in jail my senior year. I went in the military. I dropped out of college my senior year. I just, never really did what I was supposed to do. And I guess part of it was luck. I turned a gambling problem into a profitable business. And now I'm, turning something that would have put me in jail into, profitable business.
An ally has been slain.
Just unconventional through and through.
Is that a bit what Ignite is all about? To really put kind of it all on red, to use an example, but also a big unknown. But it also feels like kind of a mature thing. It feels like a grown-up thing. To put this all behind them, create this multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah, I think for me, what Ignite is about and the brand is about, just kind of not conforming, doing what makes you happy. I think a big piece of it is kind of destigmatizing the cannabis industry, and a lot of people look at cannabis as oh, you smoke weed, you're a stoner, and I'm out here, 6% body fat, I'm working out, I'm running marathons, I'm doing stuff like that, I'm active, I'm running a company, and I think that's important, because I'm not telling everybody to go out and smoke weed. It's just, for me, I think it's the healthiest alternative if you're going to get fucked up. If you're going to drink, you're going to do ecstasy, you're going to do cocaine or whatever, weed is just a better option. Just all the way around, health-wise, the whole thing. So I think it's good to show people that it's possible to be functional and do that. And and the CBD piece of it, I think that's important. The nicotine side as well. I really hate cigarettes. It's just one of my biggest, irritations when somebody's smoking, a cigarette, and I got to breathe in cigarettes. So, if we can get people to stop smoking cigarettes and use our nicotine pens, and then, go from the nicotine to the CBD, and now you're taking something that, would normally be unhealthy, and you're, switching it, to, the same, hand to mouth that, they're addicted to, but now it's something that's, giving them health benefits. So that, is one of the things that we're focusing on more so than, the flower piece of this is the vape side, because I think that's kind of the future. So, yeah, I've always hated cigarettes. I feel like it's such a stupid fucking thing to do. Like, it doesn't do a single thing for you. It's got all these negative health benefits. I've had friends die from lung cancer. I mean, it's a terrible way to watch somebody go. And you smell like a bum's nutsack. You taste like shit if you kiss a girl. Your clothes stink. If you got kids, now you're subjecting them to this secondhand smoke. I mean, it's just terrible across the board. And so, you know, it's just, you know, for me, you know, our Nick 10s are, you know, it's just a good way to, you know, still get that, you know, they're addicted to nicotine. They're not addicted to the fucking tar that's going in their lungs, the carcinogens or any of that shit. They're addicted to the nicotine and, you know, kind of that, you know, hand to mouth thing. So it gives them that without all those negative effects. And so I think that's, you know, something that I feel pretty good about. And then allowing them to use that same exact device and just put a CBD pod in there, you know, that's obviously the, you know, the goal.
And that's going to be a massive industry, right? It's supposed to be $22 billion.
Yeah, I think it'll be really big. And then, you know, getting that device in people's hands so then when the THC comes around, they just want to stick in a THC cart, they want to relax, and they don't have that negative stigma that comes with, you know, normal THC use. I mean, if you're a 510 thread, people know you're smoking, you know, THC. If you have a Juul, they know you're smoking nicotine. So this is really like the only device that, you know, does all three. And so I think that's, you know, I think that's important. I think that's, you know, one of the coolest things we're doing. More so than the flower stuff and whatever, because you're just so limited with, you know, the THC side right now. And so we're focusing a little bit more on the CBD and the nic for the time being, anyways.
What's it like?
We're still doing the THC, but
THC.
yeah, just, you know, in limited states. And, you know, for me, I wanted this to be a global brand and a global company.
What's it like being, you know, part of such a massive company that's going to be listed and, you know, on the board? And I mean, that's different than anything you've ever done, really.
Yeah, no, for sure, different.
I see you in New York City, probably meeting with bankers and, you know, fat cat finances. What's that whole thing like?
I mean, it's just, it's not what I expected I'd be doing, but it's fun, you know. For me, poker was a zero-sum game. For me to win, somebody else got to lose.
And that bothered you?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, every time I'm winning, some guy's fucking miserable, you know, and you're not providing any value. You're not building anything. You're just basically just hustling somebody out of their money. I mean, granted, they want to play poker, they want to gamble, they're getting the rush, they want to beat you. It's a competitive sport. I've been playing competitive sports my whole fucking life, so I don't have a problem beating somebody's ass, you know, in that. But at the end of the day, like, I'd much prefer to build something, provide a service that you want, that you need, that you benefit from, that I also can make money off of, as opposed to, you know, just, you know, battling heads up with somebody. So I just, and also the stress of poker, fuck, man, it was like,
Tell me about that. Your hair used to fall out, right?
I was playing big money, man, like big money. I'll never forget it. You know, one time I was sitting with $18 million and the guys like set all in and I got to make a decision for $18 million. You know, it's a lot of money to me. And,
Like your net worth.
Yeah, fuck yeah, man.
And you
At the time it was a lot, man, you know?
And this is like, what, 4 or 5 years after you were broke and sold your guns to get back in?
I think it was a little bit longer than that. So that happened. So I started playing in 2003. I went broke in like, I want to say like end of 04, maybe early 05. And then this was like 9 years later. This was like in 2014. So this was like, you know, it's been a while. Like, once I went broke, I was like pretty fucking sure I didn't want to do that again.
Because you'd never really felt broke before.
I don't know about that. I mean, I went in the military. I was making $800 a month, like in the beginning. I mean, I was pretty fucking broke. And so.
But once you lose everything at poker, you respect. After that, you respect the money.
I respect the money enough not to play like a fucking asshole. You know, not to like try and win every hand, not to let my ego get involved, not to bluff too much, but like still having the balls to, you know, put it on the table if you needed to, which a lot of guys lack that. And so because I was fearless, I was able to, because I was fearless and I did those things, people knew that I was capable of that, which a lot of people weren't. Like a lot of people just weren't capable of firing in hundreds of thousands of dollars or, later on millions of dollars or whatever it was with just nothing. Like, people could do that with like, maybe a flush draw or something. But like if I sense weakness, like I was not afraid to just put it in, put the guy to a real decision. And sometimes they call, sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes sometimes you're right. They're weak and they still fucking call because they're stubborn. Don't bluff billionaires. That's something I learned like early on. Like as a general rule, like you definitely can, but like try not to. And so I basically kind of, established that dynamic of like, I'll fucking put you to the test. And because of that, I was able to then kind of like switch gears and play a little bit, well, not a little bit more, like a lot more conservatively and get paid off in spots where like nobody else would get paid off, but I would because people, especially super rich guys, would be like, you know what, I'd rather pay this money than let this little motherfucker bluff my ass, like as a 60-something-year-old billionaire, I'm a fucking 30-year-old kid, and he's like, I'm just not gonna let this fucking little kid blow me off a hand. And so it was an ego thing, and you would tap into that, and part of it is like reading people and understanding situations, and I was good at figuring out what somebody's net worth was, what their attachment was to it, what their response was to being put in uncomfortable situations, what the response was to losing, how they acted when they were winning. Because some guys, when they're winning, they don't want to take any more risks. They're happy with their small win. Some guys, when they're losing, they chase, but they don't bluff. They just want to get lucky. So they'll call and they'll fold. They'll call. They don't hit their lucky card, they fold. Some guys try to really make every hand into a winner when they're losing. They try and push it. So those guys, you kind of like wait for a hand. You know what I mean? So it's like figuring out people and then figuring out how they react to situations and then playing accordingly. So it's a psychological warfare.
And again, you're all about the setup. So you don't need to go to the World Stars of Poker. You just get the billionaires in the room who probably wouldn't mind giving Dan Bilzerian some money. I mean,
well, this was kind of before I was Dan Bilzerian.
Okay.
You know what I mean? This was before it was like, but that was like a whole part of this too, is by establishing, the fame and subtly and not subtly bragging about the money, people recognize like, hey, this guy's got some fucking bread. Like, and also it made rich guys want to play with me more because when you're a rich guy, you don't want to play with somebody that's poor because, or relatively, not as wealthy as you, whatever, because your upside is limited, right? Like, if your net worth is $5 million and we're playing a game where the buy-in's $1 million, like the most I can beat you for is $5 million, like I wouldn't want to play with you as much as I'd want to play with a guy that's got, 500 million, right? Because I could beat that guy for 50 million, 100, I'm never going to beat you for more than 5, right? And I'm probably not going to beat you for every dollar that you have. And even if I did, I'd feel like kind of a fucking asshole if I could haul you. You know what I mean? So it's like one of those things where like, and also that guy's going to play like a lot more conservatively, and it's going to be hard to get that last dollar out of that dude as opposed to some other guy. A rich guy, he could go on tilt and lose a crazy amount of money. He's got, that capability. So by being perceived as this rich, maniac, it got me action. It got me into games that I, might not otherwise have gotten into. So, there was definitely a lot of setup that went with that. But I always knew that was the goal, was to play with the bad players that I know.
Okay. This was in the early days before everyone got super good and went all electronic.
Yeah, I mean, the online coaching definitely fucked stuff up, and then, they came out with the simulators, which basically kind of like almost solved the game to where you could play a simulator, and, there's been a lot of advances in poker for sure.
But you're done now. No more poker.
I rarely play.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you use these skills when it comes to Ignite? Do you read a room like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you don't really think about. It's just something that you just figure out. Like, I mean, I can size people up and talk to somebody, I can look at somebody, I can, figure out, how much money they have, what their, I guess what their threshold is to, risk and pain and tolerance. There's just all these things. And once you figure that stuff out, then you can kind of predict what they're going to do.
They make illogical decisions about money all the time.
Yeah, I mean, once emotion gets involved, then logic kind of goes out the window, which is why I think men probably, in general, make more predictable decisions than women, because I think men follow logic a little bit more, and women are a little bit more emotional. So when you're dealing with somebody that's operating off emotion, who knows if they're going to, it's less predictable than logic. So I feel like men are probably a little bit easier to read than women. But I've spent enough time around women, I'm getting pretty good at figuring out, like...
You mostly spend time with women.
Now it's weird, man. I was actually thinking about that the other day. I spend like an inordinate amount of time with women. And I was like thinking about that the other day. So I actually had some of my guy friends over. And like, I don't realize it because my life has just been like this for so long. But when I have these other guy friends over, like they just almost like don't know what to do with themselves when they're around all these girls, because like to me these girls are, it's normal. Like they're just, this is the level of girls that I'm hanging around with all the time. But for these guys, like any one of these girls is like their dream girl. So they get into these situations and they just like don't know how to act. And so it's like, and then like if they're like hitting on a girl and the girl's not interested in them, and then they're my friend, it's like creates this like weird dynamic. And then they try and DM the girl and the girl tells me, and it's just like, and I don't really care that much, but at the same time, like it's a little bit disrespectful. But then at the same time, it's also like I'm dating all these girls, so you can't really like say they're all off. It's just a weird dynamic. But at the end of the day, like the guys just don't really like know how to act around these girls, and so they'll end up like either creeping them out, or the guys will just get like kind of nervous or whatever, or it'll just distract them from like us hanging out. They'll just be like so distracted by like topless girls, or these hot girls, or whatever they're wearing, and it just you lose that like guy time, and since these girls are around so much, I've kind of like unfortunately had a lot less guy time than I used to have, which is probably one of my regrets, I would say.
If you could teach guys like one thing or two things about women, what would it be? What would you tell them?
Don't chase. Don't chase. And don't be afraid of rejection. Don't be afraid of rejection. I guess, like, my strategy in college is every time I would see a hot girl, I just started talking. I didn't care if it was in a fucking grocery store, if it was in the library. Like, if I saw a girl that I found attractive, I would just go talk to her. And I wouldn't go up and say, oh, I think you're beautiful and all that cheesy bullshit. I would just go talk to her about whatever. Like, didn't matter. Just have a conversation with her. See where it went, Sometimes it didn't go anywhere. Sometimes they wouldn't want to give you the time of day. Sometimes you'd have a casual conversation and lead nowhere. But at the end of the day, because I did that, it would just make me more comfortable talking to girls. And it was just kind of a numbers game. So I had, pretty great success. And, I always use the example of my one buddy who was like real conservative. He would only talk to a girl that he knew like really liked him. And, so maybe he would like talk to 2 girls and he'd sleep with both of those girls. And I would talk to 100 girls and maybe I'd sleep with 4 of them. But at the end of the day, like, he's batting 1,000, but I'm still fucking twice as many girls as him. So it's like one of those things where I just, I'll just put in the time. I'll just interact with tons of girls. And now I realize that better strategy to do it. A lot of guys don't really have their life set up to do it, is set up your life to where the girls have to come to you, and so you don't have to pursue them. When you don't have to pursue them, like I said earlier, just the dynamic is different when they're chasing you as opposed to you chasing them.
And everyone has more fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's better for the girl, because then when she finally sleeps with you, she feels like she accomplished something, and and she's like kind of worked for it, so she's a little bit invested. And if you hook up with her, it's because you've chosen to hook up with her, and not because you were chasing something. So I think it's better for both people, actually.
Do you think we'll see more like Dan Bilzerian type scenarios in the future where there's a guy and lots of women?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that are like trying to like copy what I'm doing. I don't know how effective they're going to be at it, but there's what, 8 billion people in the world, and I give them reason to be able to pull it off at some point. It's not easy. I mean, I'm in a very lucky situation. And I say lucky not because like I didn't work hard to get where I'm at, but because there's just definitely a degree in luck and super successful people. I mean, you have to be at the right time at the right place, and then figure out a way to capitalize on that. A lot of people are given an opportunity and they squander it. But poker, for instance, like I got into poker at the right time, the right place, and I put in the fucking hours, and 10,000 hours a year, playing 18 hours a day, fucking 6-7 days a week, just on the laptop while I'm playing 10 fucking tables at a time, and doing all that, and it paid off. There was a grind and it sucked, but then I made a bunch of money, and and I used that money to hire a bunch of staff, and now I've got 7 people working for me, so I don't have to spend any time going grocery shopping. I don't make my bed, and I don't wash my clothes. I don't do any of that stuff. So all the time that I spend is on business, or hanging out with girls, or hanging out with friends, or traveling, or doing things that I want to do. So I really don't spend any time doing things that I don't want to do. So I would say that I would live like 10 lifetimes at least of like a normal person, just because I haven't, like, if you look at a normal person, they spend 40 hours a week working, plus the commute and this and that, and so of their usable time, you subtract out the 8 hours a day that they sleep and take a shower and take a shit and brush their teeth, and like all this stuff that like they have to do, right? Like how much of their day is actually usable? And then of that day, like how much of that are they spending going to work, doing something that isn't anything they really want to do? Like maybe they're sorting mail, they're doing TPS reports, or they're fucking flipping burgers, or whatever it is, but it's like something that's not contributing to their life at all. And everything that I'm doing is something that like I want to do, it's interesting to me, and that's contributing to my life, and then I'm learning something from it or whatever. Even with girls, I mean, every time you interact with a girl, you learn something, you figure out more psychology, you understand why they do. Because, like, it makes sense. Like, girls just want to do what they're not supposed to do. Like, I feel like they kind of like get off on that. So if you understand that premise, and then like the whole competitive piece of it, like the stuff they do, it makes sense if you like understand all that stuff. Still surprising sometimes, but
How do you keep them all happy? Like you must have certain.
that's hard, actually. That is actually probably like the most difficult piece of this, because yeah, I mean you gotta like sleep with all these girls. If you don't, then like they get like upset. So there's like definitely a big sexual obligation, I would say. But you have to like it's I don't know. It's like I mean, we can go off on this tangent for a while, but the girls, I guess, I think it's like 2 to 3 months, and then they usually just like all get too attached they can't deal with the situation. But up until that point, you have to kind of like, you can't spend too much time with a girl, because then that will accelerate that situation, and she'll get to the point where she's just too invested and she can't deal with the other girls. So you have to spend like a somewhat limited amount of time with them, but enough time that they're like happy, right? And then you have to keep the rotation so that if some of them leave, it doesn't matter, and because you're okay with letting them leave and they can date other guys and they can do whatever they want, it makes them not necessarily want to do that as much as if you told them not to and you tried to control them. So it's a whole crazy dynamic. I don't know, it's pretty much like uncharted territory. I was just talking to this girl about this last night.
I read a book about this.
Yeah.
Are there rules?
The rule is honesty. That's my one rule. It's like, you have to be honest with me, and I'll be honest with you. You can lie to your boyfriend, you can lie to whoever the fuck you want, your friends, I don't care. But you have to be honest with me, and I'll be honest with you. That's pretty much my one rule. So if she asks me a question, I'm just going to tell her the answer. And, so I tell her, you don't want scary answers, don't ask scary questions, but I'm going to tell you the truth. So, and I think because of that, it's weird. I mean, I think they're so unused to that when they ask you a question, like, how many girls have you hooked up with this week? And you tell them the truth. Like at first they're just like, what the fuck? And then a part of them is kind of like a little bit relieved because they're like, fuck, like, this guy's like gonna be honest with me. Like I can ask him any question, he's gonna tell me the truth. And I think that's like really rare. Like I don't think there's many people that are being honest. Like in LA now they have this whole sugar daddy thing where like the guy's got 5 girlfriends and the girl's got like multiple boyfriends. She's got like 4 dudes paying the same bills. So she gets a more expensive apartment. It just means that she just made 3 times more income because 4 guys are paying for that same apartment. You know what I mean? So it's like a whole crazy thing. And they're all lying to each other and it's this whole nutty situation. But yeah, I think the rarest thing is bring it on. I think the reason the girls are okay with it, because a lot of people ask that, like why the girls are okay with it, is because of the honesty. And I would choose it too. I would choose honesty over the, possible illusion or the hope of monogamy. Because they ask me a question, they know I'm going to tell them the truth. So I think there's more value in that than in the pretense of like, I think this guy's monogamous, but I don't know, and I'm going to try and catch him cheating, and I always have it in the back of my mind, like, is he doing that? And then 2 years down the line, they find out that the guy's been cheating on them the whole time, and then they end up like an emotional wreck, and they've been deceived, and they have all this animosity. I never really have like any bad breakups or any like, negative fallouts with girls. Like, yeah, sometimes like they'll implode and they get upset, but like, I never lied to them, and they never like got swindled or like sold a bill of goods. So there's never usually like any animosity at all. And I think that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, unlike a lot of those weird contracts and arrangements and things that happen in LA, I guess, and all over the world, right? Where I'm paying for this.
Well, I mean, the contracts. I mean, I get that. For me, I never really like ever wanted to pay for sex, not because of the money, but just because I felt like the girl didn't want to fuck me because she was into me. Then I kind of killed it for me. It'd be a lot easier just to pay him to sleep with me, for sure.
You also said that's one of the most honest transactions between a man and a
woman. It is. I mean, the girl gets exactly what she wants. He gets what she, both parties get what they want. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't choose to do it because it's a turn off to me, but, by all means, I don't think there's anything wrong with it at all. I don't really want to like hook up with hookers or whatever, but like, what they do, I don't, I try not to judge them, and the guys, I get it, they don't want to waste the time, and they actually end up probably saving time. The girl gets, what she wants, and they don't have to go through this ridiculous courting process of like getting to know the best version of like, you know what I mean? Like the guy's pretending to be who he thinks that the girl wants him to be so he can sleep with her, and then the fucking girl is pretending to be like the innocent girl, right? To get the, so it's like this whole like ridiculous thing. And then the longer they date before they have sex, the more like built up bullshit there is, right? So the more the guy has to like kind of stay in character for a while, and the girl's like, has to stay in character, and they both have kind of like these skeletons in the closet because they haven't been totally like honest about who they are. So it's almost like a ticking time bomb before it implodes, before one catches the other one in their bullshit, or like how long they can keep up the facade. So yeah, I bypass the whole like dating thing. I think it's counterproductive.
So it feels like we're all kind of dancing around in these like half truths and being politically correct.
That's what dating is.
That's what it is, and that's what everyone does.
Yeah.
And then that's
I don't.
And you don't, and that's
No.
and there's something beautiful and refreshing about it. And
Yeah.
that's why people watch you.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
Yeah. You recently got your Armenian citizenship, right?
I did, yeah.
And you shot some cool weapons over there and stuff like that. What was it like, growing up, in Tampa? Were your parents first generation, and what was that like?
No, they weren't first. So I'm only a quarter Armenian. My dad's half. His dad, I think his dad was